Now, here on the Big Red Bench, we are delighted to be joined by the author of one of the best sports books out this year and in the shops and online, still available this Christmas. The book is called The Dodger, DJ Carey and the Great Betrayal, and it's written by Eimear and Bhraonáin, and it's published by Merriam Press. And I'm delighted to say Eimear joins us here on the Big Red Bench. Eimear, how are you?
I'm good, and Ger, thank you for your very kind introduction. Delighted to talk to you about the Dodger.
Thank you so much for joining us. I've read a lot of sports books this year. This has been it's one of the most high profile, obviously for obvious reasons, and the people or the person involved. It's about DJ Carey. It's about the Great Betrayal, about what happened behind all those All Ireland medals, behind all the times that he represented Kilkenny. Before we talk about DJ, can we just talk about you for a second? This was a huge undertaking, Emer. This was a really daunting prospect. Looking back on it now, before you started, or now when you see where you are now, and the book is in the shelves, and there's been a TV documentary and everything that's followed, how would you still have written the book, first of all? And what have you learnt about yourself and about the whole process at the end of the book now that it's published?
Um, I think, Ger, I knew I had a mountain to climb. I wasn't naive because I've done a lot of news stories over the years, and sometimes investigations, especially in my 20s when I worked for newspapers. And I knew that the amount of work involved would be immense. Um, it kind of, like being honest, there were times when I thought, oh God, I probably shouldn't have taken this on. But I was aware I would have those feelings throughout it because there's times when it can be very hard to get to the bottom of something. But I do find that interesting as well. Like you push through it and the story is intriguing. And there was a lot of things as well, always about DJ, that I found interesting as a young reporter. There was always lots of drama around him, lots of excitement. I wouldn't have realised he had credibility issues, say, with some of his inner circle, even, or people who were acquaintances of his. I wouldn't have been aware of that. Thought he was a good guy, thought he was a straight up guy. But at the same time, because there was always so much interest in him, he was a huge celebrity. Like he was one of our biggest celebrities in Ireland at one stage. And I remember that growing up. And I remember as a reporter in my 20s for the Irish Independent, if you had a story about DJ, you had huge interest from your readers in it. So he was kind of an ordinary hero, if you like, even though he had a massive status. He was a hero. He was somebody, though, unlike other heroes, he seemed to be more accessible and more like one of us. So I wanted to get to the bottom of this. I wanted to answer some questions, even for myself. His health issues I always found intriguing. He had talked about brain aneurysms in the past. He had talked about all sorts of things. And also, he was very busy in my own community, right under my nose, where I was working as a journalist for years. And he moved back to Kilkenny in recent years and he targeted people all around me. So when they started talking, I was paying close attention to what was going on. So I felt that it was a story that while it was uncomfortable, it needed to be written.
Yes, and fair play to you for going through with that. Like the guy has won five All Irelands, nine All Stars. He's an icon up to this point. He had been an icon to a lot of people inside and outside Kilkenny. What's the reaction been like for you personally since all of this has come out, since the book has come out, since the court case, since the TV documentary? Have you had much negative feedback from people that you come across since you've written it?
Most people I meet are very sound, and I'm in Kilkenny a lot. I still work in Kilkenny and I work in Carlow mostly and based locally. And I find that there are times when the reaction is certainly different in Kilkenny to the rest of the country. And I'll explain that because hugely positive when it's face to face, but people are heartbroken and the hurt is there. But people are sound, they realise what it is, they know what happened, but they find it hard to talk about it. Sometimes we don't talk about it, but when we do, there's no, I suppose, ill will towards me or anything like that face to face. I will say though, there are, you know yourself in the online world, it's very different, but I don't want to blow that up because to be honest with you, a lot of that emanates from a small number of people that can make a lot of noise online. But I get that too, because if DJ Carey was my hero, this would be a very difficult book for me to read. So I understand where that comes from. And in a lot of cases as well, for a long time, people didn't want to believe what was going on.
Mm.
They'd find it very hard to believe because believed that they were close to DJ. They would have considered themselves friends of DJ. But of course, we now know that DJ actually preyed on the people who loved him and that he also targeted his friends, his relatives, his acquaintances. So in that regard, nobody was safe. And people believed him for a long time. That's why he got away with it.
I look, I'm like you. I've been to Croke Park enough times and watched the guy in action in full flow, and I'm a Cork hurling and GA football, supporter, and you'd still have to admire the guy for his talents on the pitch. I still, having read your brilliantly written book, can't get my head around what kicked all this off in his head. I know you've laid out the fact that one of his businesses didn't work out particularly well at the start. He's had investments maybe that went against him and all that. But the decision to go, as you said, to close friends and business associates and look for goodwill from them and take money from them, but to do it in such a callous manner, for the switch to go off, Eimear, in his head to do that or to precipitate that, I still can't get my head around that. Is that something that you struggle with, or is it something that you've got a very clear vision of now that you've been immersed in it?
No, it's something I struggle with at times. I think he had so many legitimate opportunities to make money. He had doors would open for DJ and he didn't have to do much. He just had to turn up. And what I mean by that is he often got offered sales jobs and he ended up in sales jobs and people were delighted to see him coming. They wanted him to be on their premises. So it wasn't very hard for him in that sense. Dennis O'Brien gave him many opportunities as well, legit media opportunities. He had brand ambassador roles, all of that. He had a great role with the then IT Carlow, with the hurlers there. He worked alongside Mick Dempsey coaching the hurlers. So listen, he had lots of ways to make legit money. So you find it hard sometimes. I'd find it hard thinking, you know, this must have been stressful at times. It was like a pyramid scheme, trying to stay ahead, robbing Peter to pay Paul, all of that. But look, I mean, people can read the book. They can, as you say, I put the facts out in front of them, and I like people to draw their own conclusions. I don't like to overanalyze it. But
Mm.
if you're asking me maybe for my opinion, I think there was more than money involved. There's certainly psychological aspects to this as well, and it was very interesting when I was interviewing Dr. Mark Feldman, who's a clinical forensic psychologist in the United States, and he specializes in people who feign illness. And I'd say from some of the general information he gave me about people like DJ and con men and people who use an illness like cancer to get money from people, we can't rule out there isn't some kind of an addiction there or some kind of a kick. And it's interesting as well for sports stars after they retire because they're held in such high regard. And DJ was held in such high esteem by everybody that he was at more risk after retirement as well to keep that adulation coming, that you have to get those highs from somewhere. So I'm not saying that's definitely what happened. Who knows? But I would say that certainly it would appear there was more than money involved with this because of the nature of what he did. And he didn't always ask for money. I met lots of people, I met lots of women in particular that were probably more open than the men, and I met men as well that said DJ told them the story, told them the cancer story, told them all sorts of things, but didn't always ask for money. Sometimes he did, sometimes he didn't.
Yeah, and one of the other things you mentioned there, the people that he would have, gotten money out of, one of the great balances in your book, and it would have been very easy to focus solely on the DJ Carey hurler and what he's done and how he embezzled all the money, or sorry, how he took all the money from people. But one of the brilliant things of this book is the people. You speak to the people who have been cut out by him. And the documentary in RT was very, straightforward with some of the people that got cut out. You mentioned Dennis O'Brien, but some of the ordinary punters and citizens like yourselves. Is there a particular person or persons that sticks out now from having written the book? I don't want to give just from
Yeah,
your own interactions who you got. Not that you wouldn't necessarily have gotten close to Emer, but that you would have kind of felt. I suppose felt it inside in your own heart as well. God, this was really hard on them.
absolutely. I mean, some of the people, and each of them brought something different. The one common thread I will say is that they're all very decent, and that's what makes this all the more heartbreaking heartbreaking. And that's maybe what DJ took advantage of that. He could see that hardworking people, honest people, not all wealthy people. So the narrative we might have believed at the start is, and you know, the way in Ireland, sometimes I'm not excusing it, but we might like to get one up on the banks or one up on the wealthy, and that's somehow okay. Well, in this case, that narrative was not true. DJ honed in on the one person that stood out for me actually, and when I met him, it was like a turning point for me that I realized, this is really not good. This is much worse than I thought. And that was Thomas Butler, because Tommy is an older man and he reminded me in many ways just an ordinary Irish dad. He reminded me nearly of my own dad, that he worked all his life. That he wasn't a very wealthy man, but you know, he had a comfortable life. But the only time in his life when he was coming into a little bit of money, coming up to retirement. And it's like DJ sensed that he was
Mm.
coming into a small lump sum. And the text messages that Tommy showed me, and he was very reluctant. I mean, he was even reluctant to give a statement to Gardaí. He was absolutely convinced that DJ Carey had cancer. Such was the lengths that DJ had gone to. And this wasn't a quick hit. This was over a long period of time. There was games of golf, there was a friendship there was messages exchanged, there was meetups, you name it. And I could see, and I'd almost call it grooming. I could see the pattern, the back and forth between them. Thanks for that lovely game of golf, and you know, all the different exchanges. And in the end, he was just so ruthless how he targeted Tommy and how he took so much money from him, and that would have had and has had an impact on Tommy's life. Now, thankfully, he discussed giving the loan. It was supposed to be a loan to DJ with his wife, but if he hadn't have done that, he would have left him in even an even worse position with his family. So that was one that stood out. But there were others as well. I'm very fond of the Clare hurler, all-star hurler Tony Griffin, and I've known Tony for a long number of years. And Tony is a very good guy. He's a decent guy. He's a big heart. He's involved in lots of different things like youth work and a real champion of youth. And what I found interesting about Tony is at the end, Tony actually texted DJ to tell him that he forgave him and he was worried about him and was trying to make sure he was okay. And that'll tell you the level. A lot of these people, they were genuine. I think if DJ had have asked them for help, they would have given it to him. Some of them didn't have as well. An awful lot of people I spoke to, Ger, would never go to the Gardaí. They'd no interest in that, but they were stung and they were hurt badly. There's different reasons why they wouldn't go to the guards.
Oh, I mean, just the way you described it there, and for the people that were involved, how difficult it is, and the residue and what's left behind. I know justice has been served, and look, but people will always have the scars of this, and that's the sad thing about the whole situation. Thankfully, there was a brilliantly written book by yourself, to remind people, I think, of this, and I think it's a warning for everybody as well in future. You know, you can't always judge a book, pardon the pun, by its cover, when it comes to our stars and the people that are held up to us as superstars. But just finally, Emer, I did want to ask you, before we finish up, because we've gone way over, but I'm glad we did. What's your view on DJ Carey now? You've been through the ringer with the book. You brought it
Mm.
out. You published it. He's been in court. Justice has been served. TV documentary has been made. It's been put out there. As we come to the end of 2025 and into 26, when I say DJ Carey to you, what are the things that come into your head?
Um, I think the main thing is that DJ Carey has never taken full accountability for what he's done. So I realise he's in jail, and you're right, justice has been served, and the judge was very, very clear in his assessment, saying it was the most reprehensible fraud, and it would be a very, very long road back for DJ. I think there should always be room for somebody to be contrite and for us to hear that and to listen to that. I don't think there's, I think we know what's happened here, but we haven't actually heard a full and a frank apology to the victims at any stage. There was some reference in court that on the first occasion when Gardaí spoke to DJ, that in the very early stages of the probe into what was happening, that he had said he was sorry. But that soon went to, there was a stage there where it took a long time for the guilty plea to come forward. And on the final day in court, I didn't see the contrition. I saw a man in denial, and sources would tell me who were quite close to DJ still, he's very annoyed. He's kind of saying, to people who were close to him and did up until the very last minute that this is all a misunderstanding, that the media is out to get him, that the Gardaí are out to get him. So I don't get the full sense. Maybe the penny has dropped now, but I think that DJ Carey, for him to move forward with his life, he would need to express remorse for everything that's happened directly to the victims.
Very well said. And on that note, The Dodger, DJ Carey and the Great Betrayal, written by Eimear Bhraonáin, published by Merriam Press. It's a timely read about one of the GA's former icons who's made headlines for all the wrong reasons and is now for serving justice has been served, as we said. Eimear, it's a fantastic book. It's in all good bookstores in the final week of Christmas. If you haven't already done your Christmas shopping and you want to get somebody a worthwhile present, this is it. It's also available online, published by Merriam Press, written by Eimear Bhraonáin, The Dodger, DJ Carey and the Great Betrayal. Eimear, thank you very much for taking the time to speak to us here on the Big Red Bench.
Gur míle maith agat, Ger.